Good afternoon and welcome to Rabbi Fromowitz.
Hello, hello.
I'm Jason Kaplan with the Center for Middos Development here in Memphis, Tennessee, and this is our first podcast. Very excited to start this with you.
Yes, excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're really just going to be doing sort of a casual conversation, but with detailed information on the study and the system of Middos. And this is all through the Center for Middos Development, which is partnership with the Memphis Kollel, headed by yourself and Rabbi Yosef Bracha.
Yep.
And just for background for the listeners, the Memphis Kollel has been going for
8 years now.
It's amazing. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
2016. I have to do the math.
Yeah.
Incredible. So this is a project of the
Memphis Kollel.
Yes, and done in honor of my grandparents, Alfred and Miriam Glass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been amazing to partner with you, and we've gotten a lot of great classes at the JCC, and then we thought for the ability for other people to tune in, why not do a podcast?
Yeah, that's where it's at, podcast.
This is it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Middos, and we're gonna start from the beginning. We're gonna get some drinks here of water, and talk Middos. So from the beginning, what are Middos? People talk about it a lot. We hear it in the Sfarim. But I think of it as developing personality traits and working on yourself. Can you take it from there?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's character traits, personality traits. You know, when we think of character traits, we think of compassion, loyalty, honesty, humility, generosity, discipline, all the many, many character traits in every person. And that's what really makes us unique. It really defines who we are, and everything that we do really comes from our Middos. So there's nothing that Middos doesn't cover. So it pretty much sums up who we are.
Well, do we have bad and good Middos, or do we only have some way of looking at good?
Yeah, we got the bad, the good, and everything in between. That's who we are. Every person is unique and has a different blend of all the different Middos.
Well, I think when I look around the bookstores, I see a lot of being authentic and being your true self. But in Judaism, we're not. I don't know if we're so into being the true self or molding it. Where are we with Middos and how we have to work on ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, so Judaism is kind of unique in that the belief is that we are malleable. Mm-hmm. So we are created with, and we through our upbringing, we have certain natural character traits, but they can be altered and changed with the right approach. And the idea is to try to find the right balance. And it's different for each person, but to find that balance where we can live happily and successfully.
So I thought Middos literally meant measurements.
Yeah.
So character measurements.
Yeah, and that comes from the fact that each character trait has its own unique measurement. So while some character traits we'd want in a higher dosage, in other like generosity, compassion, other character traits we want in a much lower dosage.
Okay, so it also kind of means customized, and each person has to work on their own measurement. Mm-hmm. What is the history? I've always heard Rav Salanter is the founder of Middos, but we've had other Sfarim talk about it, but it may be as a movement, Rav Salanter. Can you help us with the history?
Yeah, I mean, the history, and its truth is it's embedded in Torah wisdom in general, which is as ancient as the Bible itself, and all the foundational principles of Middos and Musar come from the Bible and the Torah. And this specific subject of Middos has been studied for centuries. It's been taught. Much literature has been written on it. And until today, there are books being authored. There are classes being taught on the subject of Middos. So it's been an evolved and huge body of knowledge going back centuries.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's Chavos HaLevavos and maybe Mesilas Yesharim. So it's all been going back. I mean, those are even maybe more recent, but it's all been in the Gemara and the Talmud. But where does Rav Salanter fit? He's always quoted, and his students are always quoted. What did he do that made it something that became part of a curriculum, or what was his innovation? Probably a lot of innovations.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of his own innovations, but really, in concept, there was nothing new. He just sort of was responsible for a resurgence, a new focus on Middos and Musar. He felt like in his generation it was being neglected, and he wanted to bring it back into the focus. And the truth is that over the centuries, that seems to have occurred in a number of different time periods where it had to be brought back into focus. But it always has been a focus, certainly with select individuals, but there were times where the masses kind of neglected it and it needed to be brought back into focus. So Rabbi Yisrael Salanter is credited with kind of, in more recent history, bringing Musar and Middos back into focus. But the truth is that it was not a novelty. It was something that existed before him, and he kind of just brought it back into the limelight.
Well, maybe there was a lot of pressures too at that time, the secular movements and people looking at other things, unfortunately, other than Judaism. So they had to be restated or made new to people to fight some of the currents against Judaism.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. Okay. So now that was 18 something for Rav Salanter. So now it's 2024.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's in it for me? What's in it for us? So for me, Middos has been this very unique system that's very practical, but you just wouldn't do it every day unless there was a Middos program or Musar program. So I see the benefit of every January people make gym commitments to make themselves physically healthier. And we always want to be better people. And we come Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we want to be better people, treat better. But I hadn't seen a system to do an improvement without the Middos system. And journaling and visualizing and learning the Sfarim. So I think for me there is a sort of, I think you're always thought, oh, how can I be nicer to people? And then it's not as interesting as like what's in it for me. But what's in it for me is you do feel more peaceful as a person, more rooted and calm in your own world. I mean, what do you find was in it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think in short, like happiness and success. What more to, which pretty much summarizes what people are looking for. A lot of Middos are directly related to happiness. If jealousy, if a person is living a life where he's jealous or he's angry or he's arrogant, those are Middos that just go directly in contrast to a person's sense of peace, a sense of fulfillment. So Middos really addresses that head on. And like you said, just in terms of the aspirations that we have for ourselves in any area, whether it's professionally or in our relationships, if we want to be successful, there are often times where we feel like we're up against a brick wall. We're frustrated, things aren't going well, and we want to be able to address those. So sometimes there's an approach to try to adjust the behavior or kind of a cognitive approach, but Middos really addresses it at its root. It says that all of these behaviors are rooted in our Middos, and if we know how to align our Middos properly, then we'll be able to break free from those barriers that we felt we couldn't break free from previously.
Yeah. So you can get to a new level of your own self growth. But I'm thinking about just walking down the street and thinking, and people are saying, well, what's missing from my life? Like this vacation or this property, or I don't know what people are thinking to. But essentially in the mainstream culture, it's if you acquire things, you'll be happier. So I guess we're saying is if you acquire better Middos or personal development, then you find you have that happiness and success.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately people know the thing that's most meaningful to them are their relationships, and very often the relationships are built on Middos. So if we're fighting with our spouse, if we're addicted to our phone, if we're getting angry at our kids, we're usually not happy people.
Right.
But if we can figure out those areas of challenge and know how to address them properly, we'll be much happier and much more successful.
Right, and I think if you have to practice a musical instrument, you get better by practicing every day. So if we're not practicing Middos, we might be going backwards, right, and maybe have a shorter fuse about things.
Oh, yeah, no question. There's plenty of things to make us have worse Middos.
Yeah.
So if we're not on top of it, we could certainly be going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful, and I think that's always something I've really thought about with Middos is we're always thinking about how do I treat other people better, but it is important to say what do I get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, ultimately that's what most of us are interested in, and certainly what's going to get us to do the hard work, the heavy lifting, is knowing that there's something that we're going to get out of it in the end. And with Middos, it's definitely hard work, but there's definitely a very tangible benefit to ourselves.
Well, I also think you get something out of it also if you know other people are doing it. When you go to shul, they're working on it. They may say more things like, well, how was your week? And I want to really hear from you about how you're doing. And you know that you have that kind of confidence in your community.
Right. Yeah. No, getting that, if there would be that social support for it, it would be even more I think, motivating.
Yeah. Now, in the world I come from, being Baal Tshuva and growing up the way I grew up, I mean, I didn't hear about it, but you grew up in a world where you heard about it. I mean, this was in your life.
Yeah, I heard about it. I went to a yeshiva where it was kind of in a focus, but doesn't necessarily mean just because you grew up with it that it resonates with you. For me personally, this is always something that resonates very, very strongly. You know, it's something that I always had an interest in psychology and understanding the human dynamics, how we work, how relationships work. And the more I learned about Middos, the more it resonated very deeply as being true, and not just as a theoretical, interesting knowledge, but as being practically just huge and helpful. You know, I've seen it myself. There are plenty of areas that I need to work on. I wish I'd have more patience with my kids, and it's a work in progress. But what gives me the encouragement is the fact that I've seen success. I've seen myself grow in areas. I used to be, when I write an email, it would take me, I'd agonize over it. Should I write it like this? Should I write it like that? I worked at it now. I can write an email, no problem. There's a small example of something that, you know, we have to realize that just because we are a certain way, it doesn't mean it has to be that way. We can change. We just need to have the right tools to know how to change.
That's a great message. That's a great message. So let's see, we have a couple more questions, and we try to keep these podcasts shorter because we know people are busy and it's better in small doses. So I guess the question that we received was, is this for me? Like, you know, do I really need to change? Do I really need to work on it? I think we've covered that when we said, is it in it for me? But I think that's just what people say. Like, I've already had a hard day of work. I've already put in, you know, 8 to 6, 9 to 5, whatever people put in. Then you're going to have me come home and then say, I'm not that great a person. I need to work on myself. So is Middos for people after work or before work, or, you know, after fulfilling all your life responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, good question. You know, I think Middos is not for me. It's really for everyone else to work on.
Exactly. I'm going to sign you up. You really need this.
Everyone else needs it. No, but seriously, yeah, of course, it's for every person, because every person has those areas where we feel like we're at a brick wall. And maybe we don't naturally connect that to our Middos, but it is always connected to Middos, whether it's a relationship, a close relationship that's painful, or someone else that might be a professional roadblock. There's always roadblocks in life, and sometimes we don't necessarily realize that it's a Middos issue that's standing in the way. But that is always really what it's about. And yes, it is take work, but it's the best effort we can put in is in that area, because that's where we'll see results in a very broad way. So it's certainly hard and takes work, but it's worth every ounce of effort.
Well, I hear you connecting it to when you do go back to work after you study it, you'll improve the day. So you won't say, oh gosh, I'm going to come home and study Middos. You're like, oh, my day was better because I did this in the evening or before I went to the office.
Yeah. You know, it's like any investment of time. If you want to invest in your professional development, it takes time, but it will help you in every area of your life. So it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree. And that brings us to our other question of the uniqueness of Middos. We have Kabbalah, Hasidut, Gemara, Talmud, Mishnah, all kinds of areas of things to study. But the way that Middos stands out, I guess, is that interesting, I wouldn't use the word paradox, but the interesting thing of we know the places in our personality that we're coming up short. And here's a unique system. I guess the uniqueness to me is that it's an elaborate system for something very common.
Yeah. And it's very practical. It's not esoteric.
Right.
It addresses issues we face with on a daily basis. At the same time, it's deep. It's not superficial, but it's practical. There are practical techniques. And what I think is also so unique about it, just as far as the world at large, society at large, is there's this common belief that's held by people in our society that I am who I am, and take it or leave it. I'm
right. That is a lot out there.
And the Middos approach is in stark contrast to that. It teaches us that no, we can change who we are, and not just how we act, but who we are. And it takes time and work, but that's why God put us on this earth, to do that, and it will benefit us and benefit everyone around us.
Very well said. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we miss, or that I wasn't aware of until I started studying with you, is that Middos components really talk about the subconscious and all the things in modern psychology they're talking about. 200 years ago with Salanter, Rav Salanter was talking about it. So I know in this podcast we're going to talk about Middos character development, but in the future we're going to get into the psychology that was really discovered, uncovered, pushed forward by the Middos, Musser great rabbis.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. The wisdom of the Musar literature, Middos literature, is way before its time in terms of what was commonly known in the world, and that's of no surprise because it's ultimately sourced in the divine wisdom of the Torah.
Right.
But I think, yeah, to talk about practical scenarios, that's probably what people are most interested in hearing. What does this mean to me on a daily basis? How can this enhance my life? And that, I think, is something that's of tremendous value and a tremendous need, not just for everyone else, but also
exactly. Coming back to the theme of I'd love everyone else to work on this. So, so a couple more, and we talked about your sparking of your interest in it, growing up with it. I think for me, I think being married made me interested in Middos because, like, wow, I'm going to have to be in this relationship, and then the kids have to take care of the kids. And I think before, when I was interested in meditation and Kabbalah, and it was very much like, what's my personal journey? I think Middos, I was thinking, wow, I think this would be helpful for my everyday life because I'm living in a unit now. Because I mean, I lived by myself for quite a number of years. So Middos to me is, well, how you're going to really be inside this community or family unit. So that's when I got interested in it. I'm going to need a way to get better at being in this unit. So I think that was my spark. You were mentioning growing up with it and starting to love the psychology of it. Was there another moment, or was there a sefer you learned?
Oh, many svarim that certainly resonated very deeply. The writings of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter definitely resonated deeply. In Mesilas Yesharim, The Path of the Just, by the Ramchal, and others. But everyone's got their own unique, journey, in that they find the place of Middos. So, like for some people, like you said, it's relationships, it's living in a family unit. That's is where they find it. But for me, I think it was a lot of recognizing those roadblocks that I felt like for myself were inhibiting me, and being able to address them, empowered by the wisdom of Middos, by this fundamental belief that we can change. That is an extremely empowering belief. And
well, contrast that. So we were saying before, you didn't just say, well, that's who I am, this is my authentic self, I'm just not good at this. You didn't accept that.
No, because that's very imprisoning. And we can't change anyone else. So you're kind of stuck unless you believe that you can change and you can make your life better, enhanced, more happy, more productive. So I believe it's extremely empowering, and it's you've invested so much in this project. It seems like something you've found for yourself has been very meaningful. Any other ways that you see it for yourself?
I get concerned sometimes in the world of meditation and Kabbalah, which is extremely beautiful world and extremely essential, but it is a lot of personal self journey, and I just wonder what is the relationship to the other. And I'm sure it's in there, and teachers could come back to me and say, no, it's there. But I think Middos, it's just a wonderful complementary system to say, and I think you just brought it up. If you say, well, I'm just not good at this, and I'm just going to accept this, you're actually asking someone else to change and adjust to you. So you're really making demands on other people, saying, I'm just going to be angry at times, you'll just have to. So I really like what you're saying about there's a roadblock there and it's my responsibility. And I don't remember hearing that other places other than Middos. I think it's really essential.
Right. And there's an interesting balance of also having compassion and self-compassion, in the sense of like, God gave us our challenges, our unique challenges, and we're not ashamed of them, and we, or have any, shame to when we face them and look at them. At the same time, we recognize that they're there for us to work with as the raw materials for our life, but we can work with them, adjust them, and improve on them. So it's a kind of this unique balance. It's not, that we are trying to run away from ourselves. We embrace who we are, the challenges that we have, but we also recognize that that's our raw materials for us to work with and to become someone greater.
That's amazing. That's very well said. And actually, it reminded me of the sefer that I read that really got me from the the synthesis of Kabbalah and Middos was the Ramak's
Okay.
Tomer Devora, where he talks
Yeah.
about a sphera being a midah
Yeah.
of what to work on. So I think that's when I thought, oh, it could be both systems, but I didn't know enough about the world of Middos, which Rav Salanter came after the Ramak.
Right.
But I think it was all embedded in there, but I think Rav Salanter helped it become like it's a focus, like
Right.
an actual exercise.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Kabbalah is not really my thing, but I think that certainly, I think Middos, there are much deeper elements to Middos and Musar, which probably Kabbalah addresses.
Yes.
But Middos, I think, is the more practical outgrowth of that understanding and how we put it into practice. And it's not one specific group of people that believe in the practice of Middos. It's
Right.
universal. It's a universal, in terms of in Judaism, accepted belief that Middos are they're part of us and they're there for us to work with and adjust.
I think that's the beauty of what we saw at the JCC classes. We had Jews from all walks of life coming in. We had tons of stuff to agree on
Right. Yeah.
because we all thought, yeah, well, these are my roadblocks.
Right.
We're coming towards the conclusion here. This has been a great conversation. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a little bit of water and some nice microphones. So our future episode, our format, I think we're thinking about, we were talking about 2 episodes a month. I think we had about 15 or 20 minutes here today. I'll look at the timer on there. And then for everyone, we have the middoscenter.org website, middoscenter.org. And we have the info at middoscenter.org. Email, you can just email us the questions, or you can find me on Facebook or wherever. And ask away. Ask what programs we'll be doing. We're gonna come up with some ideas this summer, go into the fall. Everyone's traveling this summer, but this has been great. So I'm thrilled about this.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
All right.
thank you, Robert Fromwitz. I'm Jason Kaplan, Center for Middos Development. Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.